Hello guys, it's Mia and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. This one has been highly requested over on my Instagram, so if you aren't following me on there yet, definitely check out my account for more sustainable lifestyle inspiration. But today's video is going to be about my roommate horror story. Like, I've lived in this place for about 3 years now and I've seen so many different people come and go, but there are definitely a couple of memorable ones to say the least, and today I'm going to be talking about the one that kind of made my living situation an actual nightmare. Like, there's no other way to put it. It was really a horrible living situation. So let's just get right into the story time. Okay, so if you are unfamiliar with where I am from or like my background or anything like that, I am South African, but I have been living in the Netherlands for the past 7 years. I found a really good apartment in a good location and I really enjoyed living here in the first 2 years. However, in my 3rd year, things just kind of went downhill, like real quick. So basically, I think we need code names, okay? We're gonna call her Sally. We're gonna call her Sally and we're gonna call her friend Jane. Yes, sure, why not? So the accommodation that I'm living in is an apartment for students and there are 5 people who live here in total. And at that time, it was me from South Africa, Jane and Sally from the Netherlands, a man from Vietnam and another guy from India. I basically had moved in, I had become acquainted with the area, with the people living in it and so on. That was like maybe a couple of months before Jane and, what did I call her? Oh, Sally. Yeah, Jane and Sally moved in. So this story basically centers around Sally, and Jane is kind of like her friend, her little sidekick, okay? So the first day that I met Sally, I didn't know what, like, I didn't know how to gauge her reaction or like the situation in the house. Like, I was in my room and I remember I had to leave for something. I think I went to make a coffee or something like that, and I had seen her leave her room and I was like, oh, I have a new roommate, because how it works here is that the landlords kind of just give keys to anyone who needs a room, because as I mentioned before, the housing crisis is really bad. So people come and go and you don't really know who you're going to live with. It's usually a student, so it's fine. So Sally moved in and I saw her the morning that like she had kind of settled into the apartment and stuff, and I introduced myself. I was like, hi, my name is Mia, like, you know, the basics, and she introduced herself and she said what her name was, and then she went into her room. And I was in the kitchen and I was looking for my kettle because I was like, okay, I need to make some coffee, but I need to boil water, so where is my kettle? I was looking for like a good 20 minutes, and then later Sally comes back out and she kind of just goes in the kitchen and she pulls out this oh dear lord, she pulls out this it's not even funny, I'm traumatized, but okay, she pulls out this grey kettle from the cupboard and I'm like, that's mine. But I didn't say anything about it at first. I was just kind of like, maybe we got the same kettle. I told her, oh, is that your kettle? Because I was looking for mine. And she was like, no, I just saw this in the kitchen. And in my head, I'm like, okay, just because you see something doesn't mean it's yours. I just told her like, oh, that's actually my kettle. You can use it, just ask me. So that was like the first like little hiccup we had. But it was kind of awkward. It wasn't even like anything big. Later on, during like maybe like a couple months later, I would say, her and Jane become really good friends because Jane has recently moved in. They click really well together. They both speak the same language, you know. The thing is, I can also understand their language. So there's this one evening where Jane and Sally are sitting outside and they're smoking. But the thing is, like, my room faces the balcony, so when they're smoking, I can hear them and I can also like smell the cigarette smoke that's like coming in through the window. So they're sitting and they're talking. I noticed that the cigarette smoke is kind of like coming into my room, so I closed the window because I didn't want my room to smell like cigarettes. Didn't like bother me for a little bit. However, I started noticing that this happened more frequently and it seemed like they were doing it on purpose. And I was not cool with that, but I was like, maybe it's just like a waft, maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to like avoid conflict, because if there's anything about me that you need to know is that I absolutely hate confrontation. For the longest time, I sucked at sticking up for myself. Sometimes I still do, but like, I will go to hell and back to stick up for a friend. But that's something that I really need to work on for myself. So again, I didn't say anything, and I should have, because maybe that would have been like, you know, the end of all the conflict that we would later experience. Multiple things started happening a little bit after that. This is also around the time where I started blogging and taking, well, not started blogging, I started taking blogging more seriously. So I was actually starting to get like packages delivered to our place. Sometimes they would get the parcels for me, sometimes they wouldn't, and that was completely fine. But there were a couple of times where the parcels would kind of be like damaged or like a little bit bent or whatever. I mean, honestly, it could have been because of the shipping, but these girls were giving me bad vibes, so I really can't even tell. I know that the Vietnamese guy who lived here as well, he didn't seem to have any issues with anyone in the house. He was super chill. But the Indian guy that was here as well, he mentioned like there's definitely some tension, but he doesn't really know what's up, so he's just gonna ignore it. So I decided to do the same. I think it was around summertime of 2019 or maybe even 2018, I can't remember, that I decided to go home for a bit. Like I said, I'm from South Africa, so I fly home every year to visit my family. And I visited my family for maybe like a couple of weeks or something, and when I got back, all of the things that I had purchased and all the things that I had stored downstairs in the basement was gone. And this is because Jane had told the agency that we were renting from that they are free to donate whatever is in the basement without asking me about my stuff first. So essentially, they got rid of all the furniture that I had. It was also like some sentimental items in there, so I was very upset about it. And I spoke with her about it, and we kind of like figured it out. So I told her, it's like, in the future, please like mention that to me, or if there's anything like that that you're not sure who it belongs to, definitely just ask in the house first. And we seem to have resolved that issue. However, later down the line, a lot of weird shit starts happening. Like, I'm buying food on a Monday, and then suddenly on Wednesday I find my groceries in the trash. I get post on a Friday, and then Saturday I just don't know where it is anymore. These things started happening, and I'm like, okay, this is very, very strange. Something sus is going on. So after a while, I was like, you know what? I've actually had enough. These are way too many coincidences to be happening in such a short like span. And that's pretty much just like when shit hit the fan. There was this one evening in particular where I realized, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna try and like have like a relationship with them anymore. Like, there's no point. At first, my strategy kind of was just to make friends with everyone in the house, or at least be on good terms with people, because I think there's nothing worse than living with people and being on bad terms with them or feeling uncomfortable in your own home. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and be nice with them, and I'm sure that in the beginning they had the exact same like intentions. However, later on down the line, it just kind of wavered, so that really wasn't the case anymore. But we were all home at one point, like one evening or something, and they were sitting outside and they were smoking, and I heard them say some things about my nationality, and I heard them like talk about me and how annoying I was, and like the things that I was doing that really bothered them or something like that. And that was mainly because in our house we have a cleaning schedule, and I had mentioned a couple of times on the WhatsApp group chat if people could clean their dishes or if they could like vacuum the floor when it's their turn, because the landlords would come to our house, and because I was the one that was mostly home, since I don't have a job in the Netherlands because I'm not able to work here, I would almost always be home during the daytime if I wasn't on campus. So the landlords would come and they would yell at me because the house was untidy, and I would then call my roommates or text them or whatever and say, hey, do you mind like cleaning this up when you get back, because the landlords were here again, whatever. So the thing is, like, if the house isn't tidy, they hire a cleaning company and the cost gets split between the roommates in the house. So I don't want to get fined for a mess that I didn't make. That's just unfair to me. So I was like, okay, look, can we please just sort this out? Like, can we just take control in like this little cleaning schedule? Literally write your name down on a piece of paper and then choose what like chore you want for that week, and then we can figure it out and just clean it up. Like, that's all you have to do. That was one of the biggest issues. But like I mentioned, they started talking about me to each other, and something that I really can't stand is when people kind of like talk behind each other's backs but wouldn't say the same thing to someone else's face. The thing that bothered me the most were definitely their cigarette chats outside, because they would say such vile things about me, about my nationality, not really knowing that I could understand. But later on, I think one of them figured out that I understood, because she started speaking louder so I would hear like what they were saying. And when I closed the window, she turned to the other girl and she said, do you think she heard me? And they both laughed. So I was like, okay, they're clearly trying to like get under my skin. I should not pay any attention to this. But it just wasn't working. Like, things were just getting really bad in the house. I would take a shower, they would turn the lights off because the light bulb is, the light switch, it's outside of the shower. I would do groceries and the groceries would be thrown into the bin. If a friend was coming over and we were cooking inside the kitchen, Sally would literally come and she would like start cooking on the stove top next to ours, making sure that we didn't have any space for our food. You know, after a while you don't really know how to deal with people like this because you can talk to them, but if they don't like pay any attention or they just don't care, you're not really gonna get any far. It felt like I was speaking to a brick wall because this girl was like 25, 26, but she was behaving like she was 10. There was this one time when one of the other roommates went to Sally's door because she had what he needed. I think it was a broom or something. And he asked her if he could have the broom, and she opened the door and she threw the broom out in the hallway and he had to go pick it up. So I was like, okay, this girl is just mad disrespectful. Like there's something, you know, like there's something underlying about all of this. There's no point in getting through to her. Like if she was talking to other roommates like that, I could see it was not just an issue with me, but it definitely seemed like she had the biggest problem with me. Then we have the story of, or like the case of the jar of pickles. This jar of pickles was when things really started to go downhill. And you might be thinking, Mia, it's a jar of pickles, what could be the problem? I will tell you. There was this jar of pickles in one of the shelves in the fridge. And I don't know who it belonged to, okay? I have no clue, but I found it on my shelf. And the thing about this household is that people are very fussy about their food getting taken. Food just goes missing. And sometimes, like I said before, my groceries would just end up in the trash. So I knew that I had a target on my back and I was just trying to avoid conflict. But then this jar of pickles happened and there was a jar of pickles on my shelf and I was like, okay, that's not mine. And I was like, okay, it doesn't seem to belong to anyone, so I'm just gonna put it back in the shelf where I know it always is, and whoever like moved it to mine accidentally maybe can just like see that it's there now. The next couple of days I open the fridge when I'm making lunch or dinner or whatever, and this jar of pickles just keeps reappearing on my shelf. And I'm just like, what in the world is going on? So then I text in the group chat and I'm like, hey, like, I don't know whose pickles these are, but it's not mine and I don't want you guys to think I'm taking it, but it just keeps appearing on my shelf. So maybe someone like keeps misplacing it or like puts it there by accident if they're cleaning their shelf or like sorting out their food or whatever, or packing their groceries. I don't know. But I knew that because this jar of pickles was on my shelf and it wasn't mine, it would cause conflict later on, because that typically tends to happen in the house because people think other people steal their food. So I was like, I just want to avoid this confrontation at all costs. And the response from Sally goes, no. And I'm like, what? And it's basically like, it's all in your mind. There's no jar of pickles on your shelf. And I'm literally sitting here like questioning myself. I'm like, no, this is not happening. You are playing mind games with me. I'm not down for this. This keeps happening. I move the pickles back, pickles return. Move the pickles back, pickles return. I'm just like, I'm too old for this stuff. I hate this. I don't like it. The confrontation was just getting worse and worse. Like, it was just getting absolutely bizarre. Like, there was a point where I was going to the bathroom and like going to the shower with my dorm room keys. I would take it with me to the toilet, or I'd take it with me to the shower, because literally I don't know if they were going to go in my room and like do something, because they had thrown away my groceries, they had thrown away some of my posts, they had damaged some of the stuff that I got from like vlogging. Like, it was really, really bad. After that whole incident with the jar of pickles like kept happening, I threw the pickles away, and I got like, in a moment of anger, I threw the pickles away because I knew that they were like messing with me. And that was probably like the first or maybe second biggest spark of this whole like feud. I don't even know what you would call it. Like, it was childish. That's what it was. It was childish. I was just thinking to myself, how is this jar of pickles causing so much tension? But I see Sally like washing her dishes, and she goes back to her room when she's done, and the room is kind of slightly ajar. And my ex-boyfriend at the time, he was visiting me, and him and I are talking, and he's telling me, like, he's asking me about this jar of pickles. I don't know what I said, but I think I said something along the lines of like, no, I want to talk to the landlord about this. This isn't fair, how my groceries and stuff are just being thrown away. And later that same evening, I hear Jane like literally run to Sally's door. Like, she skedaddles down the hallway. She's like literally running to Sally's door, and she's like, oh my god, did you hear? And then Jane pretty much tells Sally that I'm gonna snitch, which is kind of true. Like, in all fairness, it's kind of true. But I didn't expect it to kind of like escalate as quickly as it did from there on out. She essentially starts yelling at me and then says that she's gonna end up moving out, which I was like, okay, please do. But obviously I didn't say anything. I was just like, okay, I don't really know what to do in this situation. Why are you yelling at me? Let's talk about this like, you know, calm individuals. But that just wasn't happening for us. So I retreated and I just went back to my room because I was like, I'm not gonna argue. There's no point. And then one day there's this huge like issue with the trash, and this was kind of like, I don't know, maybe towards the end, like right before Sally decided that she was going to move out. So the trash can was kind of like overflowing a little bit, and there was this massive trash bag in the hallway, and I decided I wasn't going to take it out. So I left it there, and Sally was like, is no one going to take out the trash? And I was like, okay girlie, like you have hands, why can't you pick it up? But I was just like, no, I'm not doing that, because I had like completed the other chores that we had discussed for the week. So she's visibly upset. It's like the kind of anger that you have but you don't really want to show it to other people because you're just going to get even more mad, and it's like that sort of anger that you start to suppress because if people ask you, are you okay, you just snap. So she closes the door on her way out, but it was that kind of like close where, you know, when you were younger and your parents were like shouting at you or something, or you were in an argument with them and you wanted to slam the door really badly but you couldn't because you know it would just aggravate them a little more. So you kind of like close the door like really quickly, but just as it's about to shut, you just kind of like slowly close it a little bit so it doesn't actually make a noise. That's pretty much what she did. So she goes downstairs, she throws the trash out, and then she comes back up. But when she comes back up, like all hell breaks loose. Like I'm just sitting there minding my business and then I hear the front door slam and I hear glass break, like shatter. And I'm just sitting there like, what's happening? Like what is actually happening? And at first I'm kind of scared to like do anything. I was like, okay, we're already like, you know, we're not in a good place right now. There's some tension. I didn't know who else was home, but it was just me, her, and I think one of the other roommates, I can't remember which one. So I ended up starting to sweep up some of the glass. She did that as well, so at least we kind of bonded over that because it was like a little bit of teamwork. But it was pretty intense. I knew that this wasn't going to be the last time, and I was correct. We would have these weird interactions, like if I was on my way out, she would bump me in the hallway or she would bump me downstairs. I'm pretty small, like I'm 5'3", and this girl is maybe like 5'7", 5'8" or something. So she would like knock me on her way out, and that would get really uncomfortable because I can't knock her back. It kind of got a little stranger at some point because basically some of the roommates were saying that if someone else had taken the trash out, the door wouldn't have broken. And I was like, tell me in what world that actually makes sense? Like, no, there is no possible way that that actually makes sense. Like, it was kind of like they were saying, oh well, maybe if you had been different, or if you had like taken the trash out sooner, the door wouldn't have broken, so it's like kind of on you. And I was just thinking to myself, this is not my fault. Like I didn't even touch that door, I was nowhere near it. And then the landlord came and they wanted to know what had happened. And I told them the truth because I was just thinking, I'm so sick of walking on eggshells in a space where I'm supposed to feel safe. I've had enough of this, you know, like it's gotten to a point where I am being physically like pushed around in the house. If I'm showering, the lights are going off. I feel unsafe, like being in my dorm room, like it was really weird. So like right after the door incident, it was very uncomfortable in the house. Like we didn't really speak for a while actually. It was just kind of underlying, I guess. It would be subtle in the sense that her and her friends would block the hallway or like block the door as I wanted to enter the house, so I would have to ask them to move, and sometimes they just didn't, so I couldn't get inside the house, and I was just standing there like, please let me in. So I would literally have to like step over them so I could enter my own apartment. Like it was weird, and this happened quite a few times. You know, I just got to a point where I was like, I don't really know how to interact with them anymore because things felt like we were fine because we kind of had that little weird bonding experience when we cleaned up the glass together, but at the same time I was obviously still not welcome. And there was a period of time where I literally wasn't able to come home because of how stressful it was, and how severe the whole situation had become. Like I was literally staying at friends' houses, I was crashing on their couches. I had practically lived with my ex-boyfriend and his family for like maybe even 2 months. There were multiple times in the evenings where I would have to call my ex-boyfriend to come and pick me up, so he would take me to his house because I was being threatened at home, or because I was being shouted at, or things were just being broken. And you know, sometimes I think that cultural clashes can happen. So if you are moving abroad and you are not really familiar with the culture that you're going to be integrating into, maybe just like open yourself up, join some clubs, and get familiar with the people who live there. Make sure that you have a basic understanding of the language as well. That will definitely help you out. And make sure to communicate with your future roommates. I think that's one of the easiest things that you can do, just by setting your boundaries like from the very beginning. Don't wait until last minute like I did. That was definitely something that I learned from this whole experience. It's a lot easier to start making friends in the very beginning than to try and make things become a little bit easier like later down the line, you know. And if people don't like you, that's completely fine, as long as there is some level of respect, I feel. But yeah, to conclude this whole story time video, I don't really know what happened to Jane or to Sally actually. The other roommates had moved out. I still stay in touch with them from time to time. I know that Jane moved out and I still see her group of friends, so that's definitely still awkward and also kind of anxiety inducing, because I know that whenever I see them I just think of all the time I just think of all the times that they blocked the front door so I couldn't get into the house, and it's so weird to have that one memory like stand out constantly. But as for Sally, like, I really have no clue what happened to her. I had gone back to South Africa for holiday, and when I came back her room was empty and someone else had moved in, and that was really nice, but I have no clue what happened to her. Like, I'm not very curious to know either, to be completely honest. But, you know, from time to time I'm like, oh right, that happened, and it just crosses my mind. That was pretty much it for today's storytime video. If you guys want to hear more about my experiences abroad and just like any other story times that you have in mind that you'd like me to share, definitely let me know in the comments down below or over on Instagram. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.